American Car of the Year.
Welcome to St. Petersburg, Florida. This is Tropicana Field, the third game of a 4-game series. The Blue Jays have always had trouble playing in this ballpark. Not the case so far. They won the first 2 games 5-3. And last night it was about the long ball, Pat. 3 home runs from the Blue Jay hitters.
Troy Tulowitzki homered on opening night, and then Josh Tolley was going to get into the act against the left-hander Drew Smiley. He goes deep, and this is really impressive. 2 left-handed batters homering against a left-handed pitcher. Smiley doesn't give up that many home runs to lefty, and then Josh Donaldson with his first of the year. Blue Jays very dependent on that home run. Last year they were 83-38 when they hit at least 1 home run in a game. Just 10-31 when they failed to go deep. So that's always a good sign when the Blue Jays have the home run bats going.
They got home runs from 2 left-handed hitters in the same game. They didn't do that one time last year. It was a big game for the lefties. Let's take a look at the lineup. Kevin Pillar right at the top of the order. Pillar is off to a good start, and he's got good numbers against Jake Odorizzi, the starter for Tampa Bay tonight. A couple of doubles and a home run. All of his hits have been for extra bases. And Josh Donaldson, he led the American League last year with 98 RBIs against right-handed pitching, and that's what he'll face tonight. Donaldson with his first home run ever in this ballpark last night. He's played 18 career games here at Tropicana Field.
That is the lineup that Jake Odorizzi will face tonight for the Blue Jays. He takes the ball for the Rays for Game 3. Had a great start to his 2015 season when his velocity ticked up a notch and his walk rate declined. He was a top drawer starter over his first 2 months of the season. He had a .247 earned run average in those 12 starts before an oblique injury sent him to the disabled list. He missed 5 weeks with that injury, but still ranked among the AL leaders in ERA, Buck. He was 8th in ERA, and he was 9th in opponent's batting average. He is a tough customer. Forget about that 1-loss record at 9-9. He didn't get any runs to work with last season.
Odorizzi is 26 years old. He was originally acquired from the Kansas City Royals. Let's take a look at the defense behind Odorizzi. In the outfield, Desmond Jennings is in left. Kevin Kiermaier, the Gold Glove winner, in center, and Steven Souza Jr. is in right. Longoria and Miller manned the left side of the infield, while Logan Foresight and Logan Morrison handled the right side. And behind the plate, Hank Conger. He started opening day here on Sunday.
Rays made the 5th most errors in the American League last year, not because of this guy. He was outstanding. Longo was a finalist for the American League Gold Glove at third base, which was eventually won by Manny Machado. He's one of the best down there.
First pitch strike from Odorizzi. He gets ahead of Kevin Pillar. Pillar 2 for 9 in the series. He got a double on an RBI. We checked in with Pillar to see how he was physically after crashing into that wall. He said no problems whatsoever, but he was concerned.
Yeah, when he first hit the wall, he thought he had really done some damage to himself. He said he got a great angle on that baseball, and right at the last second, he was able to plant that foot before he dove, and that really took a lot of pressure.
That's a base hit past the first baseman. Pillar's thinking about the big turn. He'll stop it first. A leadoff single for Kevin Pillar. Boy, the Blue Jays, they have really done a great job using the whole field early on this season.
We noticed that in the first inning of opening day when Josh Donaldson went to right field. Kevin Pillar also got into the act with a double to right field, this time inside out swing. He was thinking about 2, as Logan Morrison can't get to that one, but Steven Souza, the right fielder, very quickly gets over there and cuts it off.
Leadoff single. That'll set the table for Josh Donaldson. We mentioned Donaldson with his home run last night, his first of the season. Right at the top of the zone with a fastball. Donaldson has put up good numbers against Odorizzi. He is 2 for 8 at both of those home runs.
Power versus power, if you will, with Odorizzi versus Donaldson. A little bit different attack mode, I think, if you want to talk about Odorizzi. He's not going to throw too many change-ups and splitters. It's going to be all power this season.
How does that play into the Blue Jays lineup?
I think it plays in quite nicely because they're one of the best fastball hitting teams in all of baseball. Odorizzi says he's going to use that slider just a little bit more, use his curveball just a little bit more to team up with the fastball.
Fastball inside. Now the Blue Jays jumped on Chris Archer in the first inning for 2 runs, and they will make that starter get zeroed in quickly. Archer had a big strikeout day, but he was on the wrong end of that 5-3 win for the Blue Jays. Popped out of play over the seats down the left side. Well, the Donaldson hairdo is caught on quickly here in Florida.
I saw Josh Coley's kid running around with that hairdo. That might have been him right there that we showed. Little Josh.
1-2, nobody out. Donaldson caught looking at strike 3. That fastball, you can see it was about a baseball on the outside corner.
That's what I mean, that Odorizzi's just a little bit different this year. He has talked about relying less on that splitter changeup. This is a fastball that comes back and hits that outside corner. He was saying that I used it too much last year, and I think Josh Donaldson might have been looking for it right there, and he slipped a fastball by him.
Jose Bautista takes a breaking ball for a strike. Bautista hasn't had any luck at all against Jake Odorizzi. He's 0 for 13 going up against the Rays right-hander. Pilar got a heck of a jump. Throw is in the dirt and low, and that has been a real problem for Hank Conger. They caught just 1 base stealer last season all year long.
That was out of 43 attempts. What a great jump by Pilar. He picked the right time to go. It looked like an off-speed pitch. And I think you have to take advantage of Hank Conger's inability to throw people out. 1 for 43 trying to catch base runners to steal.
That's hard to fathom. You figure somebody's got to stumble on the way to second every once in a while. 1 out. Another off-speed pitch. Well, you know, Jose is well aware of his 0 for against Odorizzi, and this is a great matchup. And no one is smarter than Bautista trying to figure out how to break down a pitcher.
I think all that means is he's due. 0 for 13. He's ready to bust it.
Inside. 3-1 count. Trouble on deck as well. Edwin Encarnacion.
Odorizzi has done a good job of holding down those 2 sluggers for the Blue Jays.
Borderline strike right at the top of the zone. It's now a full count. Inside. Bautista takes ball 4, and that'll bring Edwin Encarnacion to the plate. He's only 2 for 13 against Odorizzi. And I guess you could say he's due as well.
Yeah, both of these guys are just too good of hitters, and they come up in big situations. Too good of hitters to be held down. What makes Edwin so tough is his ability to hit the ball all over the ballpark. There is a huge hole on the right side of the infield if he wants to shoot for it like he did on opening night.
Upstairs. Well, Odorizzi threw a fastball to retire Donaldson. He tried a fastball and missed to Bautista. You can bet that information is being logged very carefully by the Blue Jay hitters. There's another fastball. This one catches the outside corner.
He'll cut the ball. He'll use the cutter. He'll use his curveball, and he'll use his fastball. It looked like Josh Donaldson was looking for something off speed when he threw a 90-mile-an-hour fastball by him for strike 3. You know, he went back and told his teammates. Check
swing, and Diaz hit. He went too far. Well, keeping his eye on Edwin, who waved him off.
Edwin asked the umpire to check that because he just checked it. I know I didn't go. From that, it looked like he didn't watch out and said, yeah, go ahead and check. And he'll confirm what I think.
1-2. See, now that's the important pitch to watch, that 2-strike pitch. And so far, I know we're only talking about 4 batters, but that's the pitch that he has shown the Blue Jays he's going to use with 2 strikes.
Yes.
So keep an eye on that.
They're too smart. They'll pick up on that.
Pop back out of play. You know, the interesting thing is it's 91-92. It's not 95-96. That's in the hitting zone.
And I think Edwin would like to have that ball back. Shrugged his shoulders just a little bit after he fouled that ball straight back.
High fly ball deep to left. Jennings is on the track. He's got room. Pilar goes back to tag at second. He'll head toward third. The ball is cut off, and Encarnacion just missed it.
Not sure if that ball got in on him just a little bit or the change of speed got it off the end of the bat a little bit. But he is so strong, Encarnacion. It looked like he had enough to get it out of here. One more time. Fastball in, and you can see hit it just off the sweet spot. He has hit 3 home runs in his last 21 games versus the Rays, and he thought that was number 4.
Pretty good hack at it. Troy Tulowitzki will bat now with runners on the corners. Those are his numbers from his full season a year ago. Ball in the dirt. Conger gets on it quickly. Tulowitzki has never faced Jake Odorizzi. He is 1 for 6 in this series. He has a home run and a sacrifice fly. He's driven in 3. Boy, there is just no urgency in any of these hitters' approaches. They're patient. They got the pitcher on the ropes here, and we're in the first inning.
Yeah, and you can tell that they've got a game plan, and they're trying to execute that game plan. You have to have it when you step into that batter's box. Have an idea what you want to do. Tulo himself's got a hole on the right side if he wants to shoot for it. Maybe not now 3-0. You got to give him the green light, don't you?
Yeah, I think so, and just give him another pitch to look at. Odorizzi behind 3-0, 2 outs. There's that fastball, still just 91 miles an hour.
They had Chris Archer on the ropes in the first inning. Were able to get a couple of runs on opening day. They got to Drew Smiley eventually in last night's ball game. Now they got a chance to jump on their other ace, Odorizzi, here in the first. It's a big pitch right here.
High fastball, cut right through it. It's a full count. Now with 2 outs, Bautista at first. He'll be off on the pitch. Pilar's at third.
Going to play behind him now over there at first base, and that's the right thing. No need to hold Bautista on. You want to close up that hole as much as you can.
Back over the screen, out of play. 25 pitches in the first inning. The Blue Jays have made Odorizzi work. This lineup will wear you out before you ever throw a pitch. Just thinking about it. Popped up. Conger back to the screen, and it'll be over the screen, just out of play. A couple of rows back in the seats. Bautista retreats back to first.
That's what they'll do, won't they? They'll just grind at bats like this.
We have seen this now in this series where the Rays have a pretty good idea. They want to pitch up to this Blue Jays lineup.
That's where you want to be able to make them get that ball down. Set your sights down. Archer, I think, was just missing with his fastball. I don't know if that was by design or if he just didn't have his release point, but you can see Odorizzi, he wants to use his fastball against the Jays.
There goes Bautista. Strike 3 called. Odorizzi gets a couple of called strikeouts to strand a pair. Struck out Donaldson looking, gets Tulowitzki looking. Blue Jays leave a pair. Good fastball down and away. Ends the top half of the first. Aaron Sanchez will take the mound and make his first start of the season when we come back to St. Pete. The lineup for Kevin Cash's Tampa Bay Rays. Logan Foresight top of the order. Logan Morrison second. In the cleanup spot, it's Corey Dickerson in his first season with the Rays. He came over in a trade from the Colorado Rockies, and he's hit 36 of his 40 home runs against right-handed pitching. And Steven Souza Jr. in the 7th spot. 16 home runs last season as a rookie. And he had a home run in last night's game against R.A. Dickey to the seats in right.
Yeah, and Aaron Sanchez returned to the starting rotation for the Blue Jays in 2016. That's where he started last year before an injury sent him back into the bullpen. He won the job on the strength of an exceptional spring. 19 strikeouts in 20 spring innings. That's impressive, but more importantly, just 3 base on balls all spring long. He says he's been ready for this. He wants to make a good impression. He did in spring training. This is the first step tonight.
Here's the first pitch from Sanchez, up and out of the strike zone. That one almost back to the screen. He was a little bit pumped up for that first pitch, and there's another guy that's equally pumped up. His best friend, Marcus Stroman.
That ball almost took Russell Martin's hand off.
Ground ball. Tulowitzki can't knock it down. He got glove on it, but it's past him into left. Leadoff single for Logan Forsythe. That's his first hit of the season.
You know, it's going to be fun to watch tonight. The aggressive approach by the Tampa Bay Ray hitters. We talked about that on opening night, especially when Marcus Stroman was throwing so many strikes, and then Sanchez's great fastball with movement. If they're aggressive and he can keep it out of the middle of the plate, he should have a good night.
Tulowitzki, Donaldson now. Tulowitzki looks like he's got some concern over his glove. And they're taking his gamer out of the game, and he's got his backup glove now. He dove for that ball and slammed the glove. He might have busted a lace on that glove. But all these players have a backup glove. They got their gamer and their game-ready glove.
Yeah, nobody feels better except with that game glove, and you can see that's got a lot of mileage on it.
Logan Morrison looking for his first hit. He's 0 for 6 so far. Pitch downstairs. Morrison was brought in to beef up the offense. See that glove on Tulowitzki's hand, a little bit newer than his gamer. Fly ball down the left side. Saunders over into foul territory. He overran it, but he makes the catch. That ball came back on him, and it was a fair ball when he caught it. With one out, let's check in with Barry Davis. He's got some updates on Tulowitzki's glove.
Well, Buck, we saw last night, too, when the ball actually got caught in the webbing of Troy Tulowitzki's glove. I spoke to him about the glove. He actually has those 2 of them. The new one he uses just during batting practice. The old glove, he says, is just like an old shoe. He loves that thing. It's only about 5 years old, but it's gone through so much. He's actually had it back with the Blue Jays trainers at times as they try to fix it, but he uses the new one during BP, uses the old one during games, so he may feel a little lost now without it.
Well, what you try to do is bring that newer glove up to speed with the old one, and that's why he uses it so much during BP. And you can see he's trying to get comfortable with it right now.
You spit in it like that, and you just what that does is it gets the leather just a little bit wet, so when the ball hits it on the ground, it actually sticks. It almost acts like an adhesive when that ball gets in there. And he's working on it. That leather, that brand new leather, it's hard and it's not formed to your hand just the way you want it at times. It's going to take some time working on it.
That's his most important piece of equipment for sure. 1 out to Evan Longoria. Now it's 3-0.
Now that was a strike last half inning when the Blue Jays were hitting. Sanchez threw a pitch at the top of the strike zone, and you can see on pitch tracks it's right there. Unfortunately, it was not called a strike.
Got down to the bottom part of the zone there. 3-1 now to Longoria. Aaron Sanchez has had the upper hand in this head-to-head matchup. Longoria just 1 for 8 against Sanchez. There goes the runner. Ball on the ground. Tulowitzki will have to go to first. He throws out his college teammate Evan Longoria.
Well, the big question is Aaron Sanchez a better starter or a better reliever? And I guess we've got a small sample size. Last year as a starter, you can see the numbers, how they play out. Notice the curveball. As a reliever, that went down. As a reliever, he was basically a 2-pitch pitcher, fastball and a changeup. He would use that changeup and turn the fastball over. Now he can start using that curveball just a little bit more. We had a chance to watch him in spring training. He's got an exceptional curveball. It's a pitch that he didn't really get a chance to use last year when he moved to the bullpen.
For his career, Aaron Sanchez is 5-4 in 11 career starts with a .355 earned run average. 2 outs. This is Corey Dickerson. DH cuts on the first pitch.
You know, just to give you a few more numbers on that curveball that tells you how good it is. Last year, batters hit 185 off of this curveball. He's going to have to use it as a starter for sure, but that chase percentage last year as a starter went up, and his curveball usage went up as a starter. You have to use it, and it's a good one.
That's a pretty good fastball at 97. You know, there are a lot of people that think he's going to lose velocity because he's starting. I don't believe that. I think now he's in better shape physically. He's strong as an ox, and he's got a very good delivery. So I think that velocity is going to stay up in the upper 90s.
Yeah, and the things that he was telling us in spring training is because he's stronger, he can stay over the mound just a little bit more. He's got better control of his body. When things were going wild last year, he didn't know what to do.
He knows what to do now. How about a 3-pitch strikeout with a runner in scoring position? Good morning, good afternoon, good night, Mr. Dickerson.
Rogers Center this Friday night when they begin a series with the Boston Red Sox. It goes through April 8th to 10th, and then it's the Yankees coming in from the 12th to the 14th. Lots of American League East action early on in the month. We'll also see the Athletics and White Sox in a very busy month at Rogers Center. Go to BlueJays.com for tickets. Buck?
Well, it's good to see regular season baseball up and running. Aaron Sanchez got out of a first inning jam, had a runner in scoring position, and blows away Corey Dickerson. Justin Smoak gets the start tonight, his first of the season. He has a home run against Jake Odorizzi. Justin Smoak made some adjustments. What do you like from Smoak at the plate so far this season?
Well, he looks balanced to me. He looks like he is under control. What they were trying to do is balance that weight on both his right leg and his left leg. At times last year, he would get back too far towards the catcher. So his first movement was forward, slowing down his bat, and really prone to a lot of strikeouts. If you're balanced at the plate where your weight is equally distributed among your two legs 50-50, then you have a nice little smooth step into the swing. Hit 341 in the spring, and I think that validates that it's been working.
Good fastball away as Odorizzi continues to lean heavily on that heater.
He talked about that after his last spring start was not very good in his last spring start. Said, you know, I was relying too much on my splitter. I'm going to use the fastball just a little bit. Talked about it in the opening, how good he was the first part of the season. 230 earned run average, a 210 opponent's batting average at the break through his first 12 starts, and then he had that oblique injury, and he just wasn't the same pitcher the second half of the season. The Blue Jays saw him a couple of times in the second half.
Michael Saunders with a home run last night and a double. Saunders off to a good start to the season. This is his first look at Jake Odorizzi. You were awfully kind in evaluating Odorizzi's last spring start. The first 5 batters reached base. Matt Joyce hit a grand slam. He gave up 8 runs in 1 inning. You were very kind.
Well, I said he wasn't very good. I guess I was. I could have said something worse, but it wasn't very good.
He got hammered. Gave up a leadoff home run in the second to Francisco Cervelli. Certainly can't serve you very well as you're leading up to the regular season.
Doesn't count. It's just practice, right? Doesn't count.
Looks like a little bit of a in between fastballs. 85. He took something off that fastball. Saunders fouled it off home plate. 2 balls and 2 strikes on the Blue Jays left fielder. Well, you see all the hitters on the top step of that dugout trying to figure out Jake Odorizzi. And it doesn't take him too long. And there's the hitting coach. He's the hit professor, trying to help his hitters sort things out. Fastball up and in a good spot.
Usually by the second time through, the Blue Jay hitters have a pretty good idea of what that starter is trying to do to them. If they're paying attention, you can see that he's using that fastball a little bit more. Everything seems to be about the same speed. Now Odorizzi, he could change second time through, but right now he's blowing heaters right by him.
Well, that's a good depiction of a pitcher beating a hitter. That ball was past Michael Saunders. He never got the head out. 2 outs, 3 straight strikeouts for Odorizzi. Russell Martin, career high 23 home runs a year ago. There's a breaking ball that just missed. Martin in the 8th spot just validates how good this lineup is.
23 home runs and 77 driven in last year.
Came back with that breaking ball and drops it in this time.
And Russell saying, where are all those fastballs? We're throwing fastballs to everybody else. He's dropped a couple of curveballs on me.
There's a fastball, a little check swing tapper up the first baseline. Odorizzi's there and has another quick inning. 3 up, 3 down, 5 straight. Retired by the Rays right-hander Aaron Sanchez, back for the second.
The Rays.
Standing by with a very engaged Blue Jay fan.
Buck, you won't find a bigger Aaron Sanchez fan here at Tropicana Field than this young lady here, Aaron's mom, Lynn Shipley. First of all, tell us about this sign. What's the genesis of this?
This was made for Mike and I from the Gonzalez family who live in Azusa, California. We had met them at the Angel game, and they had a hat of trout, a face of trout. And I said, "Oh, where'd you get that?" And the little girl says, "Are you a trout fan?" It's like, no. So they brought this to us and bring it, and it's our good luck symbol now. I can't leave home without him.
I know your husband Mike is so nervous about this. He not only would not do the interview, but he doesn't even want to sit around us while we're doing it. What is it like for you to watch Aaron pitch?
You know, the most gratifying thing I think for myself is to watch. Those two worked really hard together to get Aaron where he is now, and to be able to still be here and watch that payoff in his eyes. I mean, you can see Mike's heartbeat in his neck, and he's just like, you would think he was on the mound with him. It's the neatest relationship, and I'm very proud of both of them.
Well, your son really did a great job in the off season to get himself in shape, and you should be awfully proud. Listen, always a pleasure, Lynn. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll send it back to you, Buck.
Great job, Barry. And of course, Aaron Sanchez and Mike Shipley, his stepfather, have a terrific relationship. And Mike pitched as a kid. He pitched in college, and he's passed along a lot of interesting information to Aaron Sanchez. And both Lynn and Mike, they have been to a lot of Aaron's games.
They were there for his first big league appearance at Rogers Center. Remember that a couple of years ago? Well, whatever he taught him, he taught him well. He's got a great fastball.
This is Desmond Jennings, the Rays left fielder. Jennings 1 for 8 so far in this series. Now 2 for 9. Got a fastball and rips it into center. I'm a little surprised that Russell Martin and Sanchez haven't gotten to the breaking ball yet. You like to get that in early in the game, and I know it's his first start. But this is a bouncing ball up the middle.
Just to see the breaking ball. They wanted that ball down and away, and it stayed in the middle of the plate, but that could be a game plan also for Martin and Sanchez. Let's establish that fastball. We know this team's going to be swinging early in the count. Let's establish the fastball and use the curveball when we need it.
Ball gets away from Sanchez. This is the shortstop, Brad Miller. He's 0 for 7 in the series. Playing hit and run. Jennings can run. He was off on the pitch, but it's fouled out of play.
Got to figure Kevin Cash wants to do something to try and ignite his offense. They've been stymied the first 2 nights against the Blue Jays.
They've been playing from behind too, and I think that's a real problem. They don't have that Blue Jays explosive offense. They've got to take advantage of their good pitching and try to get a lead early.
They've got some pretty decent team speed. Foresight and Morrison combined had 17 stolen bases last year. That's your 1 and 2 hitter. Miller, Souza, and Kiermaier all had double digits in steals last year. I think they should use that to their advantage. Problem they have, though, they have to deal with Russell Martin behind the plate. There are the numbers offensively challenged last year with this team.
3.98 runs per game. That really puts pressure on your pitching staff. 1 and 2 to Miller. Defensive swing at that 96-mile-an-hour fastball. Pat, I thought Russell Martin did a great job this spring of incorporating those second and third pitches. Change up, the curveball. He used it quite a bit for Aaron.
And they talked about that. Aaron talked about that. He said that Russell did a good job of forcing him to use his curveball. I think this is a great time to use it right here. Have to throw over to first base.
Pretty good move right there. Jennings last year was out most of the season with a knee problem, but he's had good stolen base seasons in the past.
I think the Blue Jays are looking at this one. That's why Aaron walked off the mound and stood behind the pitching rubber for a little bit for the Blue Jays to take another look at that, but he was safe.
Jennings had a career high 31 steals in 2012. Smoke goes to second. They'll get the lead runner, and that's all they're going to get. Smoke had a little trouble getting that ball cleanly out of his glove.
He had a tough angle also to make that throw around the runner. Ball was right to him, and he's right in the baseline. You can see right here, he's in the baseline, and he's got to throw this ball to the inside part of the diamond. Jennings does a good job of sliding to the inside to try and distract Tulowitzki.
You can see Smoke just had a little tough time getting the grip on that baseball, and he wisely took his time to make sure he didn't rush the throw and throw it away. One down, Steven Souza Jr., the right fielder. He went around. It's going to be interesting to watch how this game's going to unfold for Martin and Sanchez, how they use their pitches throughout the course of this ball game. There's a breaking ball hit hard to left field, but Saunders has a beat on it. Souza hit that ball sharply, but right at the left fielder.
He's hit the ball hard the last couple of nights. Souza home run to right field in a lineup. That time he got a breaking ball in the inner half. He saw that one all the way. And the Blue Jays are lucky that that ball wasn't elevated. One more time, let's take a look at where Russell Martin wants the ball, and that's a spinning slider on the inside part of the plate, and Souza, instead of driving through it, topped that ball actually.
2 outs now. Kevin Kiermaier had a good series. There goes the runner. Martin with the throw. Good tag on the money. Tough to steal against Russell Martin. Boy, he's so quick with his feet. He gets himself into a great position to throw. Tulowitzki was standing over the bag waiting for the ball, and then slaps the glove on Brad Miller to end the inning.
Captivating detail and 4 times the resolution of HD. Every play comes to life. Sportsnet brings you 4K. Visit sportsnet.ca/4K for more information. Buck and Pat, you guys may have to actually wear makeup for those games.
We always wear makeup. You know, we're so concerned about us, and we got 4K very prominent here at the ballpark right now as well. Jake Odorizzi has 4 Ks through 2 innings. It'll be 9-1-2 for the Blue Jays in the 3rd. This is a good matchup for me with Goins against Odorizzi. I think he can sell out and just look for the fastball. I think that's when he's the best.
Especially when he falls behind. He can look for something with a little hair on it. That time Odorizzi changed up.
Ball on the strike to the second baseman.
Another fastball. 30% of the pitches that Jake Odorizzi threw in 2015 were changeups. He has already said, I threw too many of them last year, and we're seeing that here through the first couple of innings, that he'll show the changeup, but he's going to use that heavy fastball and that hard slider. Looks like Goins is going to get another one.
Missed his spot. It's popped up. Longoria's got room on the warning track and makes the catch. 1 down.
The all-new Honda Civic, now available with Turbo, the 2016 North American Car of the Year.
That is Tropicana Field. The Blue Jays playing Game 3 of this 4-game series. A reminder, tomorrow's game is an afternoon affair, and then Blue Jays will fly back to Toronto. Have an off day on Thursday afternoon and open up Friday night against the Boston Red Sox. Kevin Pillar singled to right his first time up, picked up a stolen base, his first of the season. In the air, down the right field line, long run for everybody. They were shading him to pull. a nice play by Logan Foresight. Boy, he had a long way to go, and he's the only one that had a shot at it. He stayed with it, making a nice running catch.
Remember we talked the other day about Steven Souza, the right fielder, playing deep. He was deep on that one, and he was not going to get to it. Logan Morrison, the first baseman, was not going to get to it. That was an excellent play by Foresight. Josh Donaldson, this is good to see right here. Pitch on the inner half, and he turns on that bad boy. Line drive to left field, and he can do something that he had never done here as a visiting player. He can get into his home run trot.
That home run was in the 5th inning on a 3-1 count. This is where you have to wonder, okay, he's got to switch gears now. He's not going to throw me too many more fastballs. That's when you start to have doubts. Going away.
Trust what you see. And what do you see?
Lots of heaters. Donaldson checking out that outside corner. Conger moved a little further off the plate that time. Donaldson covers that outside pitch. Donaldson's a terrific 2-strike hitter. Why has he had so much success hitting with 2 strikes?
He was talking to us about that. He says, I won't have as big a leg kick, or I won't drop my hands as far to get him back up. I'll actually start him lower if I need to. He says, I like to create time instead of working on my timing. And creating time means I'll look for an off-speed pitch with 2 strikes, and I'll slow my hands down until the ball gets to me, and then I want to expand and explode through that ball once it gets into the strike zone. He's not a guess hitter, but he plays hunches.
Another fastball away.
He had some outstanding numbers last year with 2 strikes. Batting average, RBIs, home runs, and that just goes into preparation and thinking along with the pitcher and doing your homework.
Another fastball. Another strikeout for Odorizzi. He is using that heater very effectively. 3 up, 3 down. The Blue Jays go quietly in the top of the 3rd. In the first round by the Blue Jays in 2011 as a compensation pick for the Jays losing Marco Scutaro.
It was a deep draft, to say the least. The first overall was Bryce Harper. And then you go down a couple of notches, and there is Manny Machado, who is a Gold Glove All-Star in himself. Aaron Sanchez, 34th overall. Aaron was not the Blue Jays' first pick overall in that draft. He was actually the second pick by the Blue Jays.
Deck McGuire was picked 11th in that draft.
It was rich in pitchers. Matt Harvey was in that draft, and Chris Sale was in that draft. Right after Sanchez, Noah Syndergaard was picked by the Blue Jays.
Mike Fultonevich, the hard-throwing right-hander, was drafted by the Astros. Cam Bedrosian of the Angels was in that draft. Lots of good arms. Breaking ball is bounced in the dirt. It's a ball and a strike to Kevin Kiermaier. He was at the plate when Russell Martin threw out Brad Miller to end the bottom of the second.
That last pitch, Buck, looked like it was a changeup. It was 90 miles an hour. And I had a chance to sit down and talk. There was a good one right there, 89, with Aaron when we got back here from Montreal, and he said, I just threw 5 innings in a minor league game and I got my changeup down. And I said, well, why did you get your changeup down? He said, I got it down to 86 miles an hour. I said, why is that good? He says, I used to throw it 90 to 91 miles an hour, my changeup. He said, I'm just working with it. I'm working with different grips. I'm trying to get the feel for that changeup. And once you see it around 86, 85, 86 miles an hour, you know I'm going to throw a good one. And that's about where I want to be.
Kiermaier strikes out. That's a changeup there at 90. A very effective pitch when you're thinking about 97.
What's crazy about that is a changeup at 90 miles an hour. That's a good fastball for a lot of people. He says he's been working on it this spring, just trying to take miles per hour off of that, just digging that ball back in his fingers and just throwing it like a fastball. I think he's a little excited tonight. That's why you see 90 on a changeup.
And 97 on a heater. It's easy, man. It is an easy delivery, and the ball's jumping out of his hand. This is Hank Conger. He's a switch hitter, batting left-handed against Sanchez. Conger 1 for 3 in the series. He had a pinch hit last night and was caught looking at strike 3 to end the 8th. Drew Storn pumped that heater by him on the inside corner. Quality pitch. 1-2 to Conger.
Time to throw the curveball right here, isn't it?
You know, that's a real challenge for Russell Martin. When you got a good hitter like Conger at the plate and you're thinking, okay, it's probably time to throw a curveball, but man, 97 is pretty inviting. And I can say this as a catcher, you know, you'd hate to throw him a hanging curveball, had him get hit when he's throwing his fastball so well right now. But you've got to bring it into the mix.
Right.
Last ball, that's going to get down in front of Bautista. Conger turned it around.
Home Hardware and Building Center locations. Proud partners of the Toronto Blue Jays. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
Sun is setting to the west of Tampa Bay as the Blue Jays play in the bottom of the 3rd inning here inside Tropicana Field. Logan Foresight had a base hit through the left side of the infield his first time up. For you folks up north, it was a beautiful day today. Sat by the pool a little bit. No humidity, about 80 degrees. I know. We'll be back north on Thursday.
Did you get your suntan lotion out today?
Yeah.
Did you happen to see the Yankee game today, the pregame, when the tarp froze on the field today when they were lifting it off? They actually had to put warm water on it to get the ice off of the tarp today to play this afternoon's game.
That's the beauty of the Rogers Center. Don't have to worry about that. Ball and a strike to Logan Forsythe. Line drive into center. Pilar got a jump on it. It's past him. He put his glove on it, but it gets away from him, and the runners are going to move up to second and third. Conger had to make sure that ball was safely on the ground. He ends up at third. Foresight is 2 for 2. A single and a double.
We have seen Kevin Pillar come up with these plays time and time again that we're actually shocked when he doesn't come up with this play. Just off of his glove, that ball was sinking quickly. And luckily, he got a little piece of leather on that ball, and it doesn't go very far. Look at that thing starting to dive down, and it gets right off of his glove, handcuffs him a little bit, if you will. And it doesn't roll far enough for Conger to score. You're shocked when he doesn't make the catch.
Yeah, he takes a lot of pride in helping out his pitching staff. That was a tough play right at him. So Sanchez will work with runners at second and third. This is Logan Morrison. He flied out to left field. Curveball. Conger has to hold his ground. Boy, you talk about calling a perfect pitch. Everybody in the ballpark expecting a first ball fastball, and Russell Martin called for the deuce.
A perfect time to throw that curveball, but you're not out of the woods yet because you're facing Evan Longoria, and he has done his damage in his career. There are the franchise ranks for Evan Longoria. First at everything. The only one he's not first in is games, and that's Carl Crawford, and he's going to break that in his career. But this is the face of the franchise.
Longoria grounded out to shortstop his first time up. 2 outs. Another curveball. This one misses. Longoria led the team in RBIs a year ago. 73. There are only 2 players in the American League last season that led their team in hits, runs, doubles, home runs, and RBIs. Josh Donaldson and Evan Longoria.
And I'll tell you, he loves these situations right here. 2 outs, 2 runners in scoring position. You got a guy out on that mound throwing BBs right now. He's going to get locked in. Everybody's got to play straight up on defense because he hits the ball from foul line to foul line. Look at that. That's about as straight as you can get. Pillar shading a couple of steps towards right center field.
Longoria 3 for 10 in the series. Good curveball. 77 miles an hour, 20 miles slower than the fastball.
And if you don't think that messes up a hitter's timing, Longoria is thinking right now, okay, where is he going now? Is he going to go back to that curveball? Is he going to go fastball? I think you have to go soft here.
Upstairs with that fastball. He came out of his delivery a little bit and flew open. You don't need to give in to Evan Longoria. I don't care if Corey Dickerson's a left-handed hitter. Longoria is the man.
He's done this a few times.
Kind of throw him a 3-2 hook, don't you?
Yep.
He does. 3-2. He throws a curveball and gets a strikeout. Sanchez strands a pair. His 3rd strikeout of the ball game ends a scoring threat for Tampa Bay. The veteran Russell Martin called for the curveball, and Sanchez delivers.
The corner, and you can now join the Stanley Cup Playoffs Bracket Challenge, powered by Samsung, for a chance to win great prizes, including a trip to the 2016 NHL Awards in Las Vegas. Who will you pick? Visit sportsnet.ca/NHL bracket to register now. Buck?
That's a lot of fun during the playoffs, and you can watch all of that right here at sportsnet.ca. Make sure you check it out. Scoreless game, we head to the top of the fourth. Jake Odorizzi has 5 strikeouts. Bautista walked in the first inning. Jays have just 1 hit. That was Pilar leading off the game.
They had him on the ropes too. He threw 27 pitches in that first inning. Blue Jays had a couple of runners on, and a couple of strikeouts ended that, and now he has retired 8 in a row.
Bautista was a little bit out in front of that fastball and pulls it into the seats.
Jose always looking for pitch out over the plate. He's just a little bit too quick there, and he knew it. Did you see the reaction of the umpire? Even though that ball was way foul, he was anticipating that ball off one of the rings here. Goes off one of the rings and comes back fair. That's all you can get.
Breaking ball. There are 4 rings above this playing surface. They are named, the D ring is the lowest, and then C, B, and A. And they will come into play from time to time. Full count to Bautista. Encarnacion will be next. That crosses up the defense. Long run for Souza. He's not going to get it. Bautista's headed for second. He's going to make the turn and head toward third. Long throw from Souza, but Bautista crossed up the Rays with that shift. An opposite field triple.
Doesn't hit many triples. It usually goes over the wall. You're right. Fastball away, and Jose stayed right with it and hit it the other way. I thought Souza made a mistake here diving for this ball. There was no way he was going to catch this ball. And then when it ricochets away from him, that gives Jose Bautista the opportunity to pick up an extra 90 feet to pick up that triple. That was not a good play, I think, by Steven Souza, the right fielder. No chance to catch that ball.
No, you can't leave your feet. You got to try to keep it to a double at least. That's the 17th career triple for Bautista. Tapped, and Bautista got a good break. They're coming home. They throw it away. Encarnacion is headed for second. Bautista read it perfectly. It was going to be a difficult throw for Odorizzi, and he couldn't make the play.
You know, we've been talking about defense this whole series. If you go back to last year, the Tampa Bay Ray pitchers made 12 errors on batted balls in play in 2015. And this might be another one right here. He's got time because Bautista stops. He read it, but then he just fires the ball away, allowing Bautista to score. You know, once you get rid of that baseball, you become a fielder, and you have to field your position, and that was not a good play by Jake Odorizzi.
Defense is going to be a concern for this Rays ball club. It's an error on the pitcher. No RBI for Encarnacion. He ends up at second base.
12 errors on batted balls. That's not talking about throws over to first base. It's batted balls where you field your position and have to throw to a base. 12 of them last year by Tampa Bay Ray pitchers.
Troy Tulowitzki caught looking at a fastball his first time up, a 3-2 fastball away. Took for a called third strike. 1-0 Blue Jays. base hit. Encarnacion making sure it went through. They were playing Tulowitzki to pull. Second baseman Foresight was behind the bag, so Edwin, his thought was play safe.
That's what the shifts are going to do. You're going to see some crazy things like that. Normally you just take off and you score, but with a guy standing back there, you got to make sure that ball's through. You can see Edwin take a couple of steps back towards the bag, and he knew as soon as he froze on that he wasn't going to score. But that's what the shifts will do when you have that second baseman standing right behind the bag. What the Rays do with their second baseman, they keep shifting them depending on the count. If it's a hitter's count, they'll stay behind the bag. As it gets to 2-2, a 2-strike, 3-2, that they'll start moving back over to try and cover up that hole.
So Odorizzi's in a jam. Still nobody out. Runners at the corners, and Justin Smoke at the plate. Smoke with an aggressive cut. Blue Jays need to catch this runner in from third.
Yeah, take advantage of that error. If they're going to give you extra base runners, if they're going to give you runners on base, just take advantage of it.
Smoke a year ago, 303 average with runners in scoring position.
All he should be thinking about right now is getting the barrel of the bat out in front. Don't try and overpower the ball. Just make sure you catch this fastball out front.
One and two now. And this is where the daily drill during batting practice. Man at third, less than 2 outs, get a ball in the air.
And let him supply the power. You just make sure you get it out front. Set your sights down. Well, it looks like he wants to go upstairs with that fastball.
You wouldn't think they would start the runner here because Odorizzi has racked up the strikeouts. He has 5 strikeouts already. You want to have a strike him out, throw him out. Keep the pressure on. Michael Saunders is on deck. Way out of the zone. Time and time again, and I know we played 3 games in this regular season, but again the Blue Jays worked their way through the second time in the lineup, and Bautista triples, Edwin reaches on a fielder's choice and an error, and Tulowitzki singles. Second look at the starter.
And they've got a pretty good idea what he's trying to do to him. They can bring it down.
Smoke chased a high one. That's 6 strikeouts now for Odorizzi.
That's just a little bit too anxious right there. You see fastball out of his hand, and you want to drive that run in. You think you can get that ball into the outfield, but that's a tough pitch to handle.
One out. Michael Saunders struck out in the second. Off-speed pitch pulled foul. Cat and mouse game going on between these Blue Jay hitters and Odorizzi. He came out early pumping that fastball, and then he drops that breaking ball to get ahead of Saunders.
That was just a show me pitch. I think he's going to go back to that, and Michael should be thinking about that hole on the left side of the infield.
The appeal down to Paul Emholt said no swing. With the safe sign. Tampa Bay has always been aggressive with the defensive shifts, and you can see they've got a distinctive shift to the pulled side against Saunders. Trying to work Saunders upstairs, and he didn't chase. Came right back up there.
He's trying to get him to pop the ball up or swing through it. This is where patience can really pay off for you. They can bring that ball down. Michael struck out last time on a ball inside, if you remember, just like that last pitch. Make that pitcher come to you.
Oh, what a piece of hitting by Saunders. He slapped that fastball in the left and chases home Encarnacion.
What'd I tell you? I said that curveball is a show-me pitch. He's going to get a fastball and just try and hit it to that open field on the left side. I like what he did. He slowed his swing down. With 2 strikes, he told himself, I'm not going to strike out. I'm going to slow my swing down because there's one defender on the whole left side of the field. Watch how slow he just pokes at that ball. Just slaps it the other way. He takes a full cut at that. He swings and misses. That time he just slapped at it. That's a professional hitter right there.
2-strike approach, and it worked. 2-0 Jays. Russell Martin grounded out to first. His first time up. He was looking dead red right there and found the fastball back.
91 miles an hour anymore is just an average fastball in the big leagues.
That's what we talked about at the start of the show. Good hitting speed. Saunders now has 3 RBIs. That ties him with Troy Tulowitzki. Michael had a good spring.
Very good spring.
One and two. The Blue Jays have made Odorizzi work. He's thrown 76 pitches.
A lot like on opening day when they really made Chris Archer work through his 5 innings. That's 3 straight changeups. Maybe he's going to go away from what got him here. And he realizes that the Blue Jays are on that fastball now. It's a changeup. It's like a split grip type of changeup that was taught to him by his teammate Alex Cobb, and it was very successful. The only problem is he threw it so much last year, 30% of the time. That's 4.
Came right back with it and gets another strikeout. That's 7 strikeouts for Odorizzi.
He had 65 strikeouts with this changeup last year. That's accounted for 43% of his total of strikeouts. So he used it a lot. And he's trying now, I guess, to get the Blue Jays off of his fastball. Trying to incorporate that changeup a little bit more.
I think that's what's so challenging for starting pitchers. You have to have multiple weapons to make adjustments each time you work through the lineup. Number 9 hitter is Ryan Goins. He popped out to the third baseman in the 3rd inning. Now they've gone straight to that split change. 5 in a row. Got to sell out for the fastball on this pitch. Number 9 hitter. He's got to throw a fastball.
Sell out, meaning look for it, take a healthy cut at it.
Threw another one. 6 straight splitters. Ball on the strike, 2 outs, 2 runs in. 80 pitches. Josh Donaldson has struck out twice so far. He's anxious to get back up in the batter's box. Two balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Blue Jays lead it 2-0. Let's talk to Hank Conger. This is the first year Conger is with the Rays, and there's adjustments, and obviously you can catch a pitcher all spring long, but when you get into the heat of battle, things change.
Yeah, and it's obvious that Odorizzi has a pitch on his mind that he wants to throw in this situation, and Hank Conger, with a runner at second base, was going through a whole set of signs, and it was taking a long time, and he just wasn't coming up with the pitch that Odorizzi wanted.
2-2. Right by him through the fastball. Fastball gets him out of it. In the end, Odorizzi strikes out the side in the 6th. But the Blue Jays take a 2-0 lead, and it all starts with the triple off the bat of Jose Bautista. His 17th career triple. It starts off a 2-run inning.
Underway for a chance to win. Purchase an eligible Old Dutch bag of potato chips and enter the UPC code at bluejays.com/Old Dutch contest. One lucky fan will win a trip to 2017 Blue Jays spring training in Dunedin, Florida. Prize includes tickets, airfare, and hotel. Full contest rules at bluejays.com/Old Dutch contest. And with the winters we have, it's always nice to have a getaway to Florida to see the Blue Jays in spring training. Buck?
It sure is, and you can talk about that April weather as well, Terry. It's a little nasty up there, but that's a great opportunity to come down and see the Blue Jays up close and personal in spring training, so make sure you check it out. Corey Dickerson, he'll start things off. He was caught looking at strike 3 to end the first. Aaron Sanchez staked to a 2-0 lead. To right, Bautista looks up and watches this one sail way back into the seats in right. Corey Dickerson with his 2nd home run of the season.
Well, there's no question that Corey Dickerson's got some power. I don't care if it's Coors Field in Colorado where everybody said, well, his numbers are inflated because of that. I don't think so. This guy's got legitimate power. Hit 10 home runs last year because of some injuries. He takes a healthy cut every single time. 8 of his 10 home runs last year went to center field, so you know he's got some power. And it was on display right there.
Career high 24 home runs for Dickerson in 2014. He hit 312. He can hit. He was part of the big push to bring in some more offense. Ground ball. Big hop for Tulowitzki. Jennings retired. Aaron Sanchez has had some problems with left-handed hitters. They have hit .257 against Aaron compared to right-handers batting .148. So that's the reason he's working on that changeup. He's trying to develop that curveball, another weapon or two to handle the lefties.
Cut the ball every now and then. He feels a little bit more comfortable against the lefties to backdoor that cutter. Watching him in that sequence, he was shaking off Russell Martin, and they finally got to a pitch. It just seemed like he wasn't really convinced that that was the pitch that he wanted. And Dickerson made him pay.
There's a fastball lifted in the air to left. 2 down. Aaron Sanchez made 11 starts to begin the season. Then he went on the DL June 15th with a strained lat muscle.
So which one is it? Is he a better starter or is he a better reliever? And if you watched him last year, he was really starting to get on a roll as a starter before he got injured. The curveball was coming. The fastball command was coming. The numbers are good. The whip is up as a starter because he was trying to use all of his pitches. And he did not get off to a good start. Pitching in cold weather, there were a lot of high walk totals in those first few games, but as it started warming up and as right before he got injured, he threw some great ball games and then was hurt.
His last game, June 5th against the Astros, he matched up against Roberto Hernandez and faced 3 batters in the 9th. He was dealing, but then he felt the strain of that lat muscle and had to go on a DL. When they brought him back, they just put him in the pen to finish out the season.
And that was the right move, I thought, to put him in the bullpen and let him work just 1 inning. But he says when he got into trouble last year, he didn't know where to go to get the, I guess, the train back on the track, if you will. He said he was too weak. As he started his motion, he would fall off the mound because he didn't have that good strength in the middle of his body. He has it now.
Boy, what a bounce back after the leadoff home run. He bears down and retires the next 3 in order, including the strikeout of Steven Souza Jr. Blue Jays lead it 2-1. Now time for a Blue Jays Central update from the Samsung broadcast studio. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zorn.
Rogers retail location to sign the Blue Jays fan board and have your message included in the Players Tunnel at Rogers Center. Visit rogerscelebration.com for more details. Buck?
Thank you very much, Barry Davis. And it's good to have Barry Davis here with us as he breaks down what's going on down closer to the field. And there's a young fan that's being protected against the noise here in this ballpark. Nice move, Mom.
I need some of those. I need some of those.
Yeah. It's a little loud here. Pilar's 1 for 2. He was retired on a nice defensive play by the second baseman, Logan Foresight. Foresight playing where he is right now. Straight up the middle behind the mound. Had to go all the way over to the right field foul line to catch a pop-up. And he ran a long way and made a nice catch. Kevin Pillar, a lot of people are critical of Pillar for not having a very good on-base percentage, but I think that's going to improve.
What was it, 314 last year for Pillar? I said, okay, well, let's take a look at what a #1 hitter in the American League, what the on-base percentage is in the American League. You know what it is? It's 11 points higher than what Pillar was, 325.
Pops this one up. It's playable. Logan Morrison comes down, makes the catch in fair territory. Pillar pops out, 1 out. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell.
Third baseman, number 20, Josh Donaldson.
For nothing for Detroit as they're opening up in an interleague series at Miami against the Marlins. So breaking ball as Odorizzi gets ahead of Josh Donaldson. Josh has struck out both times up so far tonight. Well, Odorizzi's doing exactly what we kind of expected. He used the fastball through the first 3 innings, and now he's bringing that splitter and breaking ball back.
Unfortunately, though, he's up over 90 pitches, and that's why you see Webb, Ryan Webb, starting to get loose down that right field line. It's only the 5th inning. He's at 91 now.
First time out of the box for Odorizzi. And they're going to keep an eye on him, obviously. They don't want him laboring in his first start of the season. Donaldson strikes out for a 3rd time.
That's 9 strikeouts tonight for Jake Odorizzi. Just 4.
Nice little cutter down and away. Donaldson
Courtesy of King's Furniture.
just trying to foul that ball off. Comes up empty.
Right fielder, 19.
9 strikeouts now for Jake Odorizzi.
Lots of strikeouts early in the season for the Blue Jays and around baseball. Boston pitchers struck out 15 today. David Price had 10, and then their bullpen racked up 5. Junichi Tozawa had 2, Koji Uehara had 1, and Craig Kimbrell had 1. So the hitters, and this is not unusual, the hitters a little bit behind to start the season. Jose is 1 for 1 officially. He walked in the first, tripled and scored in the 4th. Breaking ball. That was a hanger, but he got underneath it and pops out to center. 3 up, 3 down. Blue Jays go quietly in the top of the 5th.
Fans follow the Blue Jays all season long on your phone and tablet with the MLB.com At Bat app. Customize At Bat to feature the Blue Jays and stay up to the moment at any moment with scores, news, live game video highlights, and much more. Download MLB.com At Bat, the #1 app for live baseball. Buck?
Thank you very much, Barry Davis. And there's that young fan getting a lift from his mom. He's not rocking out, folks, so it's just to protect him from the sound.
Kids get scared like that.
Yeah. Especially with these big Blue Jay bats here indoors. 2-1 ball game. Aaron Sanchez back out for the bottom of the 5th. Sanchez gave up a home run to lead off the 4th. Corey Dickerson took him deep to right. Kevin Kiermaier was a strikeout victim to start the 3rd. Changeup bounced on home plate. 2-1. The Blue Jays have won the first 2 games of this 4-game series. They'll finish it off with a day game tomorrow afternoon. Ground ball. Goins is there at second. 1 down.
The all-new Honda Civic, now available with Turbo. The 2016 North American Car of the Year.
One out in the bottom of the 5th. Number 9 hitter is the catcher, Hank Conger. Had a base hit to right field in the 3rd inning.
He's free and easy, isn't he? Yeah, the ball just fires out of that arm. That's why I think if he gets the feel for that changeup and he gets a feel for his breaking ball, you have to respect the fastball. There's a good changeup at 89 miles an hour. When he gets those things working, he's going to be a strikeout machine.
Oh, 0-2 to the number 9 hitter. Strikeout with the changeup, a 3-pitch strikeout. That's 5 strikeouts now for Sanchez.
Remember the last time he humped up on Hank Conger with a fastball and he got a single off of him, so he decided to go soft on him that time. Digs that ball back in his fingers and then throws it with great arm action, puts it in a good spot.
Back to the top of the order, leadoff man Logan Forsythe has gone 2 for 2 tonight. He singled through left side of the infield and double to center. He had a line drive right at Kevin Pillar, and it was a sinking liner. Pillar got a glove on it but couldn't make the catch, and Forsythe ended up with the double. That's when Sanchez really did a terrific job. It was 2nd and 3rd with 1 out. He got Logan Morrison on 1 pitch to tap back to the mound. And then he struck out Evan Longoria on a 3-2 breaking ball. Popped up. Goins goes out, calls for it, makes the catch. Sanchez through 5 has a 2-1 lead. When we come back, Edwin Encarnacion will start things off. Then Troy Tulowitzki and Justin Smoke. 4, 5, and 6 for the Jays. authority of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. We head to the 6th. Middle of the order for the Blue Jays, Encarnacion, Tulowitzki, and Smoke. Blue Jays lead it 2-1, trying to make it 3 in a row to start the season.
That hasn't happened for the Blue Jays for a while, trying to go 3-0 to start the year.
This has popped up a mile high. It's missing that ring high above the infield. Miller stays with it. Shortstop makes the catch.
Well, Buck, we put our cameramen to work, and we finally have some video evidence on what happened with Troy Tulowitzki's glove. Remember this play in last night's game off the bat of Desmond Jennings? He couldn't get the ball out of his glove. Well, watch what happens here early in this one. Zoop! And the ball went right through the webbing as he dove for it, broke the glove, and that's why we saw Troy leave the field and get his backup glove. Our cameramen, they don't miss much, do
No, they sure don't. And there was a reason that ball got away from him. He got to it, as you could see, and then it just busted right through the webbing of that glove. So that's in the shop right now getting repairs.
And I imagine that has happened a few times with that glove before, that it has had to go to the shop and get relaced.
You know, you see that more often with catchers, where the catcher's glove will give way and catch so many balls in the webbing of your catcher's mitt that every once in a while one will pop right through there and break a lace.
Well, that's a good pitch. Odorizzi is a good pitcher. He's got a good arm, and it's surprising that he has played with multiple organizations already in his young career.
He was drafted originally by the Milwaukee Brewers in 2008. A first-round draft pick, 32nd pick overall by Milwaukee. And then he was traded 2 years later, December 19, 2010, along with Lorenzo Cain, Alcides Escobar, and Jeremy Jeffress to Kansas City for a fellow named Zach Greinke and Unieski Betancourt, the shortstop. He's been involved in some big trades. That one, of course, Greinke was an impending free agent. Kansas City built their World Series team on that trade.
Those guys that you just mentioned are household names now after the World Series. And I know my buddy Doug Melvin, who was the general manager at the time of the Milwaukee Brewers, would like a do-over with that one. He traded some good players.
Foul ball. Paul Emmel, the third base. I'm calling it foul. You saw Dana Evelyn, the left-hander, loosening up. Well, not only did Kansas City get a boatload for Odorizzi in that trade, then they would trade him to Tampa Bay. And there's that foul ball. When Kansas City traded Odorizzi to Tampa Bay, the Royals got James Shields, Wade Davis, and Elliott Johnson. Another great trade by Dayton Moore.
So they basically turned Zach Greinke into Cain, their starting center fielder, their shortstop Escobar, Wade Davis, their closer this year. Who was that other one? James Shields was there, but then he left as a free agent.
Yep.
Wow.
But that built their foundation for the World Series championship. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 1 out. Top of the 6th inning. Breaking ball, another strikeout. That's 10 strikeouts for Odorizzi.
Just bring your tickets to a receipt locator receipt to indicate store in the next 7 days. You get a coupon for a free
Good off-speed pitch right here from Odorizzi as he reaches 10 strikeouts. You can see why he was traded. It's not about the teams not liking him. It's about the guys trading for him wanting this good arm. From Milwaukee to Kansas City to Tampa Bay.
10 strikeouts for Odorizzi. Third time in his career he's logged double-digit strikeouts. First time since June 21st, 2014. His career high is 11. The Blue Jays haven't started the season 3-0 since 1996. Odorizzi, another impressive outing against the Blue Jays. He's held them to 2 runs on 4 hits, and he contributed to the first run of the game. He threw a ball wide of home, committing the error that allowed Bautista to come in to score the first run of the game.
Should have been on second base to begin with and not third. His career high in innings pitched was 8. Guess who he did that against? The Blue Jays. Did that last April when he was matched up with R.E. Dickey.
8 innings of 2-hit ball. He won that game 2-1. He's on the wrong side of a 2-1 game tonight. Full count, 2 outs. Just the second walk issued by Odorizzi. He slaps at that ball away, and he knows he's out of this game. Kevin Cash jogs out of the dugout. Odorizzi obviously doesn't want to leave this ball game. He's on the losing end of a 2-1 game, but he's thrown 111 pitches in his first start of the season. So the Blue Jays will face a former Blue Jay, Dana Evan, making his second appearance of the season.
One o'clock Pacific, Sportsnet presents Marcus Stroman, The Stro Show. A look at Marcus's remarkable comeback from his ACL injury, from being told his season was over before it began to being back pitching in September. He said his return will be legendary. It was. This Saturday on Sportsnet.
Make sure you check that out, and if you want to see him Friday night, he'll be teeing it up against Boston in the home opener Friday night. Dana Evan delivers the first pitch strike to Michael Saunders.
There are the numbers for Dana Evan. That was last season in AAA, 4-0 with a 195 earned run average. He pitched an inning and 2/3 here on opening night. Zeros across the board with a couple of strikeouts. And he jumps ahead of Michael Saunders very quickly. He's going to, at some point in this at bat, try and sweep that breaking ball to Michael Saunders.
Saunders faced Evelyn as the first batter. Evelyn faced on Sunday. That one got away from him. He was trying to bend that breaking ball down and away. Michael had 2 hits against lefty pitching in game 2 against Drew Smiley. Stays on that breaking ball.
And one of them was a big fly. Just take a look at it after a long delay. Both teams looking at some video replay. Michael Saunders steps in and gets a pitch to his liking and drives it over the head of Kevin Kiermaier. First home run as a Blue Jay.
One and two. He was asked after the game if that was his defining moment as a Blue Jay. He said, no, it was when I found out I was coming to the Blue Jays. That was the best day of my Blue Jays career. That fouls right off the glove of Hank Conger. Saunders hanging tough against the lefty. The ball hits him in the back. The Blue Jays catch a break. Justin Smoke broke on the first move of the pitcher Evelyn, and he ends up at second. The throw from Morrison hit him right in the back.
You know, that's where a first baseman's got to clear some space. He's got him dead to rights. He's got to clear some space, get to the inside. You see Morrison doesn't do anything. All he does is just fire from that spot. Brad Miller, the shortstop, can't get onto the inside because he's in that shift, and it hits Justin right in the back of the head.
What should the first baseman do in that situation?
Clear some space, meaning get to the inside just a little bit more. That's another spot where the shift hurt the Tampa Bay Rays, because Miller is coming from his spot behind second. And there's really no clear view for that first baseman.
It's the bouncing ball to Morrison. He'll go to the bag and slides in safely as Saunders, as Morrison saw Evelyn wasn't going to get there. Saunders has good speed. It's an infield hit for Saunders. Another hit against the lefty. Kevin Cash is out of the dugout. He's going to look at this one on video replay.
We'll have to take a look. I'll tell you what, I give him a lot of credit. Michael Saunders busting it down that line to make this thing close. It's an easy out. It's a ground ball two-hopper to the first baseman right at him. He didn't take anything for granted. It came right out of that batter's box trying to beat that play at first base.
The replay review is powered by Samsung. So the umpires, again, we have seen, what, 4 reviews in this series already?
They just showed it on the video board, and I think he's going to be out. Watch the bag move when Morrison hits it right there, and Michael is not there. So it looks like the call is going to be reversed.
Well, that's a good angle right there, and you could see clearly that Morrison's foot pushed the bag before Saunders got on top of it. That should end the inning. The ruling on the field is that it is an infield base hit. And there's the call. Crew chief Mike Everett shoots the fist in the air. Saunders is retired, 3 unassisted. That ends the top half of the 6th.
Team shop for your Toronto Blue Jays. New 2016 authentic jersey with 40th season sleeve patch available now. Get yours today at jshop.ca. Buck, I think we may see a few more of those number 21 Saunders jerseys selling this year after the start he's off to.
Well, you're right about that. I know Michael Saunders is very pleased to be healthy once again, and you're seeing just exactly what he can add to this ball club. A potent left-handed bat and solid D in left field, and it's good to see Michael out there on an everyday basis.
He can run too. He got down that line and almost beat that ball.
Bottom of the sixth, 2-1 ball game. It'll be 2, 3, and 4 in the Rays lineup. Half-hearted swing from Logan Morrison. He just got overmatched with that pitch. Sanchez very economical through 5 innings, just 64 pitches. I think this is the thing that you're going to see Sanchez is capable of doing. Fastball, changeup, he's been effective. He hasn't had a good breaking ball. He's got one of the best curveballs in the league.
Yeah, wait till he starts working that thing, and we saw what he could do with that when the Rays had a couple of runners on second and third, and it was Logan Morrison who was hitting. Aaron threw him a first pitch curveball, and he grounded right back to the mound.
And then he used that curveball to end that inning. He threw a 3-2 hook to Evan Longoria to strike him out. Aaron made 7 appearances in the postseason. Picked up the win in Game 5 of the ALDS against Texas. He was on the mound during that 7th inning, pitching when Russell Martin's throw back to the pitcher's mound hit Sin-Shu Chu and allowed the Rangers to take the lead. That led to that 53-minute inning that was capped off by the Jose Bautista bat flip.
One of the best innings I've ever seen in this game.
Without question. You know that there's going to be a full house Friday night, anxious to see another bat flip. 2-2 pitch, strike 3 called. 6 strikeouts now for Sanchez.
Home Hardware and Building Center locations. Proud partners of the Toronto Blue Jays. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
Nighttime has fallen on the St. Petersburg area. Evan Longoria trying to ambush that first pitch fastball. Comes up empty. That ball got away from him. 95 back to the screen.
Frightening whenever you see one of those get away from him. He wasn't trying anything there. He wasn't even trying to go up and in. Looked like Russell had set up down and away. Watch the front foot. Just gave way. You can see Aaron looking down at his feet like he lost his footing on that mound.
That's unnerving for the hitter and the pitcher. Back with the breaking ball, left it inside. I don't care who you are, after a pitch like that, it takes you a couple pitches to get your feet back on the ground.
Get your mind back into the ball game.
Bouncing ball to Tulowitzki. 2 down. Well, you talk about an automatic out. You put it in Tulowitzki's glove and you're out.
He has been
such
steady.
a true arm, doesn't he?
True arm. He can throw from different angles. He can throw across his body, make the 360, do whatever it takes to get that ball over there. And it always seems to get over there a fraction of a second before that runner gets there.
The great ones have that internal clock. He's still using his backup glove. He broke the webbing of his gamer early in this ball game. It was actually the first batter in the bottom of the first. Logan Foresight hit a ground ball that busted right through the webbing of Tulowitzki's glove for a base hit. Corey Dickerson is accounted for the only Rays run of the game. He had a leadoff home run in the fourth, and it was a bomb. The impressive part of that inning in my mind was Sanchez regrouped and retired the next three batters in order
very quickly. Also ground out, a fly out, and a strikeout. You'll have to keep the ball away from this guy.
Or drop the curveball on the outside corner. That's illegal. Steve Geltz is loosening up, and he has pitched in this series. Changeup. Defensive swing. Would you characterize Dickerson as a fastball hitter?
I think so. He's got a flat bat. His swing is very true and it's very short. 8 home runs to center, 2 to right last year. He didn't hit a home run to left field at all last year, but he's got opposite field power. We saw that in batting practice yesterday.
Breaking ball pulled on the ground. Smoke takes it. Easy inning for Sanchez. 3 up, 3 down. We've played 6. Aaron Sanchez and the Blue Jays have a 2-1 lead.
Presented by the all-new Honda Civic, now available with Turbo, the 2016 North American Car of the Year.
Well, the Blue Jays have always had a tough go of it down here at Tropicana Field, and they have a lead trying to make it 3 straight to open up the season. They have not won 3 straight games to start a season since 1996. Got a 2-1 lead despite being out-hit 5-4. Martin Goins and the top of the order against Dana Evelyn. Evelyn came in and retired Saunders, and it took a replay review to finalize that inning. Martin's 0 for 2 with a strikeout. Let me ask you this. You're a hitter. You play a shift like this. You got a left-handed pitcher on the mound. As a hitter, don't you think that something's going to be inside?
You would think, but major league hitters can take that ball the other way. And if I'm looking for my first hit of the season, I'm going to take a shot, especially leading off an inning in the 7th inning of a 1-run ball game, I'm going to take one shot and try and hit a ground ball and get myself aboard.
High fly ball to deep center field. Kiermaier thought Jennings had it, and now did he make that catch? Jennings made the catch. There was some communication problems. Kiermaier looked at Jennings. Jennings had a beat on it, but Kiermaier thought Jennings was going to call for it, and then he reached for it, but Jennings caught it behind him.
That could have been dangerous for the Tampa Bay Rays. Kiermaier, the best center fielder, not real sure where the ball is, not real sure if Jennings is going to call it. He jumps in front of him, but how about Desmond Jennings holding on to that ball, the concentration to look it right into the glove, and then watch Kiermaier right into the wall, full force.
2 center fielders, and again you see the athleticism of Kiermaier. He was able to bounce around Jennings running full speed. Kiermaier lost it initially, then called for it, but right at the end peeled out of the way and allowed Jennings to make the catch.
And that could have been dangerous for the Rays. You're talking Russell Martin probably on third base if those two collide, or if that ball is dropped in the outfield.
Ground ball. They were playing up the middle. Miller boots it. Goins is aboard with an infield hit. That shift cost him right there. I just don't think you can shift that dramatically with Goins hitting a lefty pitcher.
Yeah, lefty on left, you don't want to do that. And they take advantage of it. Let's see if the Blue Jays can bring him around now.
So Goins has a base hit. He's 1 for 3. That's the 5th hit. Now the Blue Jays have even the Rays in that department. They both have 5 hits. Millar takes a pitch. Kevin singled his first time up. He has popped out twice since. One out. Base hit. Goins will check in at second. First and second, 1 out. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. Ain't even out of the game. Kevin Pillar's second hit of the evening has chased him. Josh Donaldson will be the batter. It'll be Steve Geltz coming in. A right-hander in to face Donaldson. The Blue Jays have a 1-run lead, trying to add to it here in the 7th.
TSC. Save an extra 15% off licensed fan gear. Shop online at tsc.ca and use the promo code FAN15. Buck?
Thank you very much, Barry Davis. Interesting point of the ball game right now. The right-hander Steve Gelson to face Josh Donaldson.
Thought we might see Geltz against Pilar, but Kevin Cash holds him back, and now he's going to face the middle of the Blue Jay lineup. He's got a big fastball. 61 strikeouts last season in 67 innings. He'll give up his share of fly balls. He's right over the top with a fastball. He'll pitch in middle relief. He's got some giddy up to that fastball, and his strikeout pitch is a hard slider, but he'll give up his share of fly balls.
He pitched the 9th inning in last night's game, retired the side in order. Josh Donaldson has struck out 3 times tonight. One out. Blue Jays trying to add to their lead. Donaldson has had 3 4-strikeout games. Most recently, the 24th of May last year at home against Seattle. But he says, I'm not afraid of striking out. That's why I'm able to hit with 2 strikes.
That's exactly what he said to us. That's why he is such a good 2-strike hitter. You can't be afraid to strike out. You can see that Geltz is pumping that fastball in there. That's another thing that Josh did, is hit well against guys with 95-mile-an-hour plus fastballs.
When we talk about Donaldson hitting with 2 strikes, his average last year was 200 with 2 strikes. But the American League average was 130. So he's 70 points better than the average in the American League.
Says he makes his adjustments with his hands when he gets to 2 strikes. He was also #1 in 2-strike RBIs last year with 44.
Popped it up. Longoria coming down from third base makes the catch. Donaldson pops out. 2 outs now. The drive of the game. It's brought to you by the all-new Honda Civic, the 2016 North American Car of the Year.
You don't see too many of these from Jose Bautista. I'm not talking about fly balls to the outfield or balls to the opposite field. We're talking about triples. Steven Souza makes an ill-fated dive at that ball, and that allows Jose to go from home all the way to third base without a throw. A lead-off triple in the 4th inning. He would come around to score the game's first run. That is tonight's drive of the game.
That got the 2-run inning started. Bautista scored the first run on an error by the pitcher, Jake Odorizzi, and Michael Saunders picked up the second with a 2-strike opposite field single to left. That slider you were talking about, that's his bread and butter.
He's got a good slider. He'll split that fastball also, and he's got a good one, mid-90s fastball, and he likes to use it.
Blue Jays could use some insurance runs here. Roberto Osuna has pitched in the first 2 games, and chances are he's not available tonight. The Blue Jays bullpen was very effective in last night's win. Jesse Chavez, Brett Cecil, Drew Storn, and Roberto Osuna.
takes a little something off on that little wrinkle breaking ball. It's not a great pitch, but the combination of his fastball and split make it very effective.
Full count, 2 outs. Pilar at first, Goins at second. They'll both be off on the pitch. 2-1 ball game. There go the runners. All 4. That'll load the bases. So Geltz has worked himself into a nasty situation. Edwin Encarnacion hit 3 grand slams last year.
His numbers with the bases loaded last year was off the charts. Some of the biggest hits by the Blue Jays last year was when this man was at the plate and the sacks full of Blue Jay base runners. And for his career, he's hit 9 grand slams.
Bases loaded, 2 outs. Aaron Sanchez, in his first start of the season, wouldn't mind a couple of extra runs right now. High fly ball, Kiermaier. In. Geltz gets out of it. The Blue Jays leave the bases loaded in the top half of the 7th. Still a 1-run game.
You pick the games and reserve seats that get you closer to the action. Starting from 10 games up to a full season, our account executives will find the package that best suits your needs. Go to BlueJays.com to learn more about all the great benefits of being a Blue Jays ticket package holder. And these will be much hotter seats than they have been in the past, Buck.
They sure will, Barry, and it'll all start on Friday night. Blue Jays will open up their home portion of the schedule against the Boston Red Sox. Marcus Stroman will go up against Rick Porcello on Saturday. A unique game featuring 2 knuckleball pitchers, R.A. Dickey and Stephen Wright. And on Sunday, Marco Estrada will make his season debut, matched up against David Price, who won this afternoon in Cleveland. Aaron Sanchez, 6 innings. First pitch swinging is Desmond Jennings. Tulowitzki on the money.
Boy, how does he do it? 1 out here in the 7th inning. Aaron Sanchez, I think, has been masterful. He has used his fastball with great success, keeping it around the strike zone, moving it around, and when he needs that curveball, he gets it. Sanchez really just doing what he did in spring training, just pumping that fastball in there all around the strike zone. He's got 6 strikeouts working now in the 7th inning.
Well, he's got a great defense behind him, and that gives him a lot of confidence to challenge that strike zone. That is Mike and Lynn Shipley, parents of Aaron Sanchez. They came in from California to watch this game, and Mike is a nervous Nelly when Aaron's pitching. Look at him wringing his hand. He would just as soon be out there pitching himself than sit in the stands and watch Aaron work.
That's always the roughest part, isn't it? You can't do anything. All you can do is sit there and watch.
Blue Jays got quite a crew of parents that travel well, and they come out to see their kids play. 0-2. Of course, Mike Tolley was here last night when Josh hit the home run that tied it up at 1-1. He was a nervous wreck during replay. Breaking ball pulled into the Rays dugout.
Well, we know one thing for sure. The parents of all these kids are watching Sportsnet, and they're watching our broadcast because they said they saw Mike on TV last night, and that's why he was on the phone when Josh was going around the bases.
Two balls and 2 strikes. We're in the bottom of the 7th. Strike 3 call. That's 7 strikeouts for Sanchez. 2 outs here in the 7th. Blue Jays bullpen was terrific in the win last night. Brett Cecil threw 13 pitches to retire the side in order in the 7th. Overall, the bullpen threw 4 innings of 2-hit relief, 2 walks and 6 strikeouts. That's slamming the doors on the Rays.
Got some extra work. They're carrying 8 relievers right now, and Gibby was saying before the game he'd like to get some of these guys some work.
He'll wait a couple of days before he gets them their work in a 2-1 game.
Some of them, right?
He's going to make sure that he goes to the big guys down in that pen. He and his lieutenant, DeMarlo Hale. Well, the offseason conditioning program has worked. Aaron Sanchez is still firing it in there in the 7th.
And his pitch count has been great. Look at that, 88 pitches. Still throwing 97 with that fastball. He's doing it with his legs. You can see it was noticeable the first day of spring training when you walked into the clubhouse and you saw Aaron, how much bigger and stronger he was with his legs and his backside. That's where he gets a lot of his power.
Aaron made 11 starts at the start of the season last year. 3 times he pitched 7 or more innings in those 11 starts. His longest start of the season was his final start, June 5th at Rogers Center against Houston. He went 8 innings plus 3 batters, and after that he had to go on the shelf. He had a strained lat muscle in his back. 1-2. There it is. Strike 3 call. Couple of strikeouts for Aaron Sanchez. You talk about finishing up strong. That's 12 straight retired by Aaron Sanchez, and his parents are very pleased. Another good start for Aaron, his first of the season. Sanchez gets a congratulatory handshake from the skipper, John Gibbons. That indicates his night has come to an end. And you talk about punctuating an outing. He retired the final 12 batters he faced
with authority, and it's got to feel good to get that under your belt. You can see his buddy Marcus Stroman enjoying what he saw from Aaron tonight. Fist pumps all around, especially from the pitching coach Pete Walker.
And his battery mate Russell Martin. How about a young pitcher making his first start of the season, giving up a home run to start the fourth, and then retiring the next 12? Alex Colomé into the game. 43 games a year ago. He will serve as the closer for the time being, with Brad Boxberger on the shelf with that core muscle surgery.
Colomé made 13 starts last year for Tampa Bay. He also made 30 relief appearances for them. He throws hard right over the top, and that's why he is going to close, because he's got a good arm. 96.
Eighth inning of a 2-1 game. Blue Jays won the first two games by the identical scores, 5-3. Tulowitzki 1 for 3, a couple of strikeouts tonight. .96 for the strikeout. Blue Jays have struck out 11 times again tonight.
You can see why they have him in that bullpen at the back end. Loose, lively arm with some good action to it. He's also got a power curveball. That time it's just straight fastballs to Tulowitzki.
Justin Smoke had a rarity back in the sixth. He walked and then picked up a stolen base. His third career stolen base. Jumps on the first pitch and hits it hard to right. Souza has to play it on a hop. For Smoke, that's his first hit of the season.
He wasn't waiting around to get that curveball. He was going to jump on the first fastball he saw. Look at the balance that time. The head barely moves. Lets the ball come to him and whacks that thing into right field.
A couple of former Seattle Mariners having a chat over at first. Both first baseman Morrison and Smoke. Michael Saunders, he picked up the second RBI of the inning. He picked up the RBI. He has driven in 3 in this series. Had an RBI single in the fourth. Drove in the second run of that inning. And that is the difference in this ball game. Brett Cecil cranking it up down in the pen. We mentioned he pitched in last night's game through 13 pitches. Retired the side in order. The Blue Jays have a deep bullpen. Last year at the start of the season, it was a coin toss. Didn't know what you were going to get. And Sanchez, 7 innings of 5 hit ball, and he didn't walk a batter.
Picked up where he left off in spring training. We mentioned that at the top. 19 strikeouts in 20 innings and just 3 base off balls all spring long. Now it's up to the bullpen. Wouldn't hurt to get a couple of insurance runs here.
I think John Gibbons would agree with that. These are always tough ball games here in Tampa Bay. Never really comfortable until you had your first sandwich in the locker room after the game.
Hopefully with a W, right? Pilar was talking about that today. He says these guys are pesky hitters and they don't go down easy.
Lifted in the air to left. Desmond Jennings coming over. Kiermaier will watch him make the catch. 2 down now.
Number 55.
Russell Martin has gone 0 for 3, but you can bet he's taken a measure of satisfaction of handling Aaron Sanchez tonight in this 1-run game. That's the beauty of being a catcher. You can have a terrific night and go over
and still be a big factor in the game. He also caught a base stealer, his second one of the season earlier this ball game.
He threw out Brad Miller to end the second. Ball gets away. It's not far enough for Smoke to take a chance. You can see why they have settled on Colomé to fill in the void of Boxberger. Boxberger led the league in saves last year, and that was bad news they got when he had to undergo that surgery.
And he's going to be out for a while, so they were scrambling. The natural pick would have been Jake McGee, but they traded him to Colorado for Corey Dickerson. But they always seem to come up with somebody else, don't they? Every year they find somebody in that bullpen to take over.
They got a great pitching coach in Kevin Hickey, and Hickey is in his 10th season. He has the ability to bring out the best of the pitchers. When they show up here, they all lean heavily on the fastball. Hickey working with Kevin Cash for the 2nd year.
He does a terrific job with him, Jim Hickey. He's been here a long time, and he has seen a lot of great pitchers come through those clubhouse doors.
Martin pulls it on the ground. Big hop for Miller. Toss to second for the 4th. The inning is over. So we'll go to the bottom of the 8th. A terrific ball game. 2-1. The Blue Jays have the lead. Now time for a Blue Jays Central update from the Samsung broadcast studio. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zorn.
All your experiences as they happen with friends and family back home. With Roam Like Home from Rogers, you can use your phone exactly as you do at home, starting at $5 a day at the U.S. Go to Rogers.com/RoamLikeHome for details. Buck?
Thank you very much, Barry Davis. A lot of Blue Jay fans on hand. A lot of friends and family here, of course. And we've seen a lot of players' families here. And Fred Cecil used to make his home in this area. He has gone back to his native Maryland. He is appearing for the 2nd straight ball game tonight.
pitched last night. 3 up, 3 down. Had a couple of strikeouts in that game. 5-5 last year with an excellent earned run average at 248. He will face Kevin Kiermaier, the first batter here in the 8th inning. Imperative to keep him off the bases.
Well, it sure is. He's a speedster that represents the tying run. The appeal denied down by the third base umpire. It's a ball and a strike to leadoff man here in the 8th. Cecil came in to pitch the 7th inning. Logan Morrison was the batter. Pinch hitter Stephen Pierce came up and drilled the ball to the alley in left center. This is trouble if it stays fair. Long run for Saunders, and it slices foul. Jesse Chavez pitched the 6th inning. He came in with a man aboard in the 6th in last night's game, and he gave up a single, walked man, but struck out 2. He threw just 15 pitches.
Getting loose because Tampa Bay can go to the bench, and they will probably go to the bench after Kiermaier. Got to get this guy right here. Kiermaier is improving against left-handers. Wow, they didn't even try and get out of the way.
No, he didn't. He's got that elbow pad on, and he just kind of leaned into it. He's hit by the pitch, and that's the tying run at first.
It was a breaking ball. They tried to go down in a way that just didn't come out of Brett's hand very cleanly, so it stayed out over the plate. And if you're Kevin Kiermaier, you got to get on, watch him. Just use that elbow and just keep it out over the plate to get hit.
So Kiermaier aboard. Conger was the scheduled batter. It'll be a pinch hitter. Brandon Geyer, the right-handed hitting outfielder. Geyer 0 for 5 against Brett Cecil, and it really doesn't make any difference to Cecil. He's equally effective, right-hander or left. Kiermaier with 18 stolen bases a year ago. You got to keep your eye on him. He was caught just 5 times.
A little bit tougher to steal against a left-handed pitcher. Got to keep him close to first base.
Kiermaier was rocking. He wasn't really sure which direction to go, and he has to dive back in. Cecil falls behind, a couple of pitches up and away. Geyer is batting in the 9th spot in the order. Leadoff man Logan Forsythe is on deck.
He can handle the bat too. I mean, he can hit behind the runner if he wants to. They can start the runner if they want to. He's going to take a shot, I think, at hitting a ball to right field to get Kiermaier to third base.
Geyer, for his career, 256 hitter here at Tropicana Field. Blue Jays need a ground ball. Brett Cecil has developed into one of the most reliable relief pitchers in the American League. Had a terrific season a year ago. Fly ball. Saunders has a beat on it. Kiermaier's going back to tag. He breaks towards second, but Saunders gets it in quickly to keep that double play in order. Boy, the infielders did a good job. As soon as they saw Kiermaier going back to tag, they all hollered at Saunders, he's tagging.
And Michael got himself into throwing position when he caught that ball. If he drifts on that ball or he catches that ball flat-footed, Kiermaier, with that ever aggressive attitude, is going to tag up and he's going to get into scoring position. But he caught the ball in throwing position in one motion, caught it, got it back in. That's what communicating on the baseball field is all about.
So there's one out now. Logan Foresight 2 for 3 with a double. Breaking ball in the dirt. We mentioned Cecil last year equally effective against right-handers and left-handers. Left-handers hit 195 against Cecil. Right-handers 198.
Both under 200. He did it with a good fastball, and his curveball is outstanding. He'll throw it any time, like that right there. He made some adjustments last year. He held his hands up just a little bit higher in his stretch position. He felt like he was giving away his pitches. Talked to the old pro Mark Burley. Said, why don't you just get your hands right to your belt right there, eliminate some of that movement. And he took off. He is working on a streak right now that's unprecedented in baseball.
38 consecutive appearances without allowing an earned run. He is tied with Greg Kimbrell in that department. Fly ball to right. Bautista looking up, and there goes that streak. Logan Forsythe, an opposite field home run. Third hit of the night.
That streak you were talking about goes all the way back to June the 21st against Baltimore, and it goes off the bat of Foresight. He has hit the ball hard tonight 3 times. Foresight, a single, a double, and a home run to put the Rays ahead.
John Gibbons with that slow walk to the mound. So Aaron Sanchez will end up with a no decision. Brett Cesa will give way to Jesse Chavez. Chavez had a good inning of work last night. Blue Jays trail 3-2. Kiermaier to start the inning, and then he got The pinch hitter Brandon Guyer, and Logan Foresight goes opposite field, a 2-run home run to give the Rays the lead. Gives way to Jesse Chavez, who will face Steve Pearce. Pearce was announced as a pinch hitter, and John Gibbons then went to Chavez.
They said he will pitch as a bridge. He can pitch late in the game because of that power stuff. He comes right after you right now. Good curveball and a cutter. Had a couple of strikeouts in last night's game. He jumps ahead of Steve Pearce very quickly.
Going to drop for a base hit. Bautista plays it on a hop. Pearce will stop at first. Pearce covering that outside corner, flares it into right for a base hit.
That's just a good piece of hitting right there. Chavez hit his spot, threw where he wanted to, down and away, but Pearce jumped on that one. Russell Martin setting up off the plate. He hits his spot, and that cutter's just sliced into right field for a hit.
Evan Longoria steps in with 1 out. Longoria is 0 for 3. Three-2 ball game. The hits are even at 7 apiece. That good cut fastball, a little late movement, takes it right off the end of the bat.
Those had about low 90s. When he was here the first time with the Blue Jays, he didn't throw this hard. But he said he found his rhythm, he found his release point, and he just throws 3 of them right by Evan Longoria.
Well, good job by Chavez, and Martin trying to end the inning, throws behind Pearce at first. Longoria is 0 for 4.
Just trying to get Stephen Pearce leaning the wrong way. A heads-up play, and Jesse Chavez does his job.
Corey Dickerson is the scheduled batter. He's a lefty, so we'll get our first look at the newest Blue Jay, Franklin Morales, coming in from the bullpen. Lefty on lefty when we come back.
Honda Super Camps across Canada. Learn techniques from former Blue Jays such as Roberto Alomar, Devon White, Lloyd Mosby, Jesse Barfield, and Dwayne Ward. Register now at bluejays.com/camps.
Thank you very much, Barry Davis. And right now, the Blue Jays need to come up with a big out. First opportunity for Franklin Morales. Logan Foresight with a 2-run home run to the opposite field off of Brett Cecil has given the Rays a 3-2 lead.
There are the numbers for Franklin Morales. He got into 67 appearances out of the bullpen for Kansas City last year, 4-2 with a 318 earned run average. 13 straight appearances without giving up a run from June the 28th through July the 29th. Just signed as a free agent to fill that second left void in the bullpen.
First pitch breaking ball. He gets ahead of Corey Dickerson. These two were teammates in Colorado. Morales has had 2 different stints with the Rockies. He signed initially with the Rockies as an international free agent. Came to the big leagues in 2007. And then he spent the 2014 season with the Rockies. Went 6-9 in 38 games. Justin Smoak takes a hit away from Corey Dickerson, and that's why he's out there with that good glove. Morales gets Dickerson. That ends the inning. Corey Dickerson hit a home run in the 4th, hit this one right on the button, but right to the first base, and the Blue Jays will bat in the 9th, down by a run. And he takes over defensively at first base, and the catcher Hank Conger was lifted for a pinch hitter. Now Kirk Casale moves in behind the plate to catch here in the 9th. So the Blue Jays are down by a run as they bat in the 9th. It'll be 9-1-2 for the Jays. Goins, Pilar, and Donaldson. Alex Colomé came in to pitch the 8th inning, gave up a single to Justin Smoak.
He's their closer, and after they take the lead in the bottom of the 8th inning, why not push him out there for another inning?
Well, you had mentioned he has started in the past, so it's not like he's a 1-inning specialist.
He's got a good arm too, free and easy. He is a bull coming out of that bullpen.
Colomé in his 4th season with the Rays picked up 5 saves last year. Kevin Pilar, the leadoff hitter, has gone 2 for 4 tonight. Bouncing ball toward second. Foresight boots it. The tying runs aboard. This is a concern for Tampa Bay. Their defense, they rely so much on pitching. And Foresight trying to make a play on that little chopper, boots it.
And in the past, they have been so good. They were always in the top 3 in fielding percentage in the American League. They combine that great pitching and great defense to a lot of wins. But Foresight just did not look comfortable coming in on that ball at all. And he'll get charged with his first error.
Infield hit for Goins. He has 2 hits tonight. That turns the lineup over.
That wasn't an error? Wow, thank you.
Yeah. We'd like to welcome those of you who have been watching hockey. We are in the 9th inning. The Blue Jays had the lead until the bottom of the 8th home run by Logan Foresight. They trail 3-2. Ryan Goins, the leadoff man, has reached on an infield single. Pilar hits it in the air to center. Kiermaier has it. Goins thinking about tagging. He goes halfway. It wasn't deep enough to tag. 1 down. So Josh Donaldson's had a rough night at the plate, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. He'll step in with 1 out. Colomé, hard throwing right-hander. These are the situations that Donaldson lives for. He's had a rough night at the plate, 0 for 4, but he's just looking for that one big hit.
But if you know Josh Donaldson, he doesn't even remember his last 4 at-bats. Got to have a short memory if you're going to be a great hitter.
Broken bat, base hit. Goins had to hold up. Not sure where that ball was headed. He hit it off the end of the bat, but 2 aboard now.
You're a runner at first base and you see that bat explode like that, and you're not real sure where the ball is. I think that's what happened to Ryan. Watch him at first base off the end of the bat. You see the bat, you see the ball, you just got to make sure that that ball gets down safely. You really can't go first to third on Kiermaier.
Blue Jays trying to rally back here in the 9th. Jose Bautista has walked twice, tripled, and flied out.
Blue Jays have had a lot of opportunities tonight to bust this game open. They have left 9 runners on base through 8 innings. They've been looking for that one big hit all night.
First pitch strike. Nine left on, 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position. Ball in the dirt. Not far enough for the runners to advance.
Wow, that was close to getting through. Right underneath the glove. It ricocheted a little bit in between his legs, but that thing almost went back to the backstop. Watch it one more time. He spikes that fastball.
He got lucky right there. The ball glanced off his glove and hit his shin guard. Ball on the strike to Bautista. One and 2. Look out. Up and in. He had to bail out. I don't know if that ball was past him, but he was fortunate right there.
That was a lot like the Evan Longoria at bat earlier in the game when Sanchez lost control of a fastball up and in. Watch where the catcher wants this ball and it gets away, and Jose ducks just at the last second. He turns his head. That's the most important thing. Turns his head to protect himself, and he drops his hands so they're not exposed.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Bautista seems to rise to the occasion after someone loses one up and in.
We've seen it over the years, haven't we? Even if it's not on purpose, he takes it personal, and he just seems to come up with a big base hit. Colomé thinks he can get in there with that fastball. I'm surprised. He's got a good one. And Jose is pretty quick in there.
Jose Bautista has averaged 37 home runs per season since 2010.
He's hit 27 of them against the Rays, the most the Rays have given up to one player.
Interesting situation now. It's a full count with 1 out. Edwin Encarnacion is on deck. Bautista has walked twice. He walked to load the bases in the 7th, and Encarnacion flied out to end the inning.
No need to send the runners here. You don't want to run into any outs or anything like that. You want Bautista and you want Encarnacion to hit.
Popped back out of play.
You see him asking the home plate umpire if that ball was up.
We'll do it again. Another full count pitch, 1 out. Ball 4. That'll load the bases again. Encarnacion had the bases loaded with 2 outs in the 7th and flew out to center. But before this at bat, Jim Hickey, the pitching coach, will come out to the mound.
This might be just to give Colomé a little bit of a rest. That was a 9-pitch at bat to Bautista, and he really made him work. And you know, Edwin was sitting on deck looking at every one of those pitches, getting a feel for that fastball and that breaking ball.
Encarnacion has a home run against Colomé. 1 for 3 with a homer.
Designated hitter, number 10, Edwin Encarnacion.
Edwin has 9 career grand slams. The Blue Jays would be thrilled with a 2-run single. Goins at third. Donaldson singled. He's at second. Bautista walked for the 3rd time tonight. He's been on base 4 times. Strike 1. Strike 2.
I've been watching Jose Bautista over there at first base, and you know what his job is right here. If there is a ground ball, he needs to break up that double play. And remember the new rule about breaking up double plays.
Almost hit him. Edwin said, no, it didn't hit me, and Gibbons was out to ask him about the possibility of a review. Tim Timmons, the home plate umpire, holding up his hands now and has stopped play. Now Edwin's set. Ground ball. Longoria goes to second for one. Back to first. He threw it away. A run's in, and here comes Donaldson. The defense again has cost the Rays.
Normally one of the best fielding teams in all of baseball, but it hasn't been in this series. Jose got a big lead over there at first base, and he was able to disrupt the throw at second base. Legal slide and everything. I think Kevin Cash is going to come out and appeal the slide. You're allowed to do this. That's why we talked about it a couple of pitches ago. That's a legal slide right into the base, over the base. I think that's what Cash is going to talk about, that he went over the base, but he slid into the base. He slid before the base. Foresight just made a bad throw.
Yeah, that rule has just been finalized right before the start of this season. The Players Association and Major League Baseball agreeing on the definition of this rule. You take a look at the slide now. Bautista is on the ground going straight into the bag, but then he reached out with his hand, and that's going to be interesting. The ball is thrown away at first. Goins came in on the fielder's choice, so it's an RBI for Edwin. And then the air allowed the second run to score. The call on the field is that it's a force out. The throw is wide of first, and the second run came in to score.
Can you change this play based on what you see right there with the left hand? I mean, does that disturb him that much that he throws it away?
Boy, that's going to be tough, and he didn't raise his hand off the ground. You could defend that slide by saying he was just sliding and breaking his momentum. But that's a interesting replay review. But Bautista didn't do anything wrong in my mind. He slid straight into the base. He initiated his slide before he got to the bag, and he was just sliding, and his hand was flat on the ground. It's not like his arm was up in the air.
I don't think he intentionally went out there and try and knock the guy down with his hand. He was just sliding. Your hand goes along the ground. I don't think they can change this, can they? No. No way.
They changed it and called a double play.
No way.
And that game is over. And John Gibbons is out to argue with the third base umpire, who's the crew chief. That's Mike Everett. And it had to be interpreted that Bautista reached out and swiped at Forsythe's leg. And the Rays, with the benefit of replay review, win the third game of this series. And now you can see it's becoming a heated argument, but it's academic. Once you go to review, it's out of the umpire's hand on the field. But that's the first time we have seen that new rule implemented.
Wow, that is a tough way to lose a ball game. Interpretation that his hand hit his foot, and that's what caused him to throw the ball away. I'm not sure.
That is a tough loss for sure. The Blue Jays battled back in the ninth. They got a couple of hits and tied it up, but the replay review overturns the call, called the double play, and the Blue Jays lose the game 3-2. We'll be back tomorrow afternoon. Now stay tuned. Here is Sportsnet Central, Ken Reed and Martine Guyers.